Now, here's a chart displaying Australia's quarterly GDP growth. And I've circled our 1991 recession in red. Now, I'm showing you this because the main question on everyone's lips is, what will happen to property? Well, we only have to look to history for that answer, and history shows us that despite global crises such as the GFC, the 1991 recession, the 1987 stock market crash, and outbreaks of illnesses such as SARS, Ebola, the Australian property market has actually remained quite resilient. And in fact, if you look there, following the 1991 recession and the tech wreck of 2001, or the dot-com crash as they call it, the Australian property market boomed. And that was due to its reliability. Now, if we compare where we are today to our last recession, our property market is certainly higher. In fact, over the last 25 years, this chart shows you, up to 2018, Australian dwelling values have actually increased by an average of 6.4% per annum. Now, that's a significant increase. Now, these charts that I'm going to show you now show you the housing indices versus the All Ords index across previous economic shocks. Now, property's in blue and yellow is stock. And the dotted line that you can see there in the middle, that's the 5-year point on either side of that catalyst of the event. And here's the stock market crash of 1987, the Asian financial crisis of 1997, the tech wreck, or the dot-com bubble, whatever you want to call it, of 2001. Now, that was $5 trillion in stock market losses. And look at the roller coaster ride that is the share market. And look at the consistency of the trajectory of property. Now, it's not a straight line, but I know where I'd rather have my money during that time. And we've already seen stock markets plummet more than 30% in less than the first 2 weeks amid the COVID-19 panic. Now, still fresh in my mind is the GFC, and I remember, watching it on Sky Business News and people walking out of Lehman Brothers with cardboard boxes. And the Dow Jones sustained $1.4 trillion in losses in the first 5 days. Now, that's the largest 1-week loss in New York Stock Exchange history. And you might be wondering, well, why is property not as volatile? Well, it's pretty simple. Selling property is not as easy as selling a stock. You can't just pull out your phone, open up an app and press a sell button. It takes weeks to get property ready for sale. So there will be less impulsive property sales, which will avoid a mass sell-off. And unlike what we've seen on global stock markets, it should relatively remain quite calm. All right, we are going to see some great opportunities, but not a sell-off. And the one thing that 25 million Australians have in common is the need for shelter. So research does suggest that a strong property market will again, as it has time and time before, lead Australia out of the latest health crisis, recession, etc. And potentially that's going to start as soon as 6 months. So when will we see a rebound? Well, this chart here shows you the home value index from CoreLogic and its growth rate over the past 25 years. Now, the dark columns there that you can see represent crises throughout the decades. And by analyzing this chart, it shows us that home values have been relatively insulated from economic shocks. But where we have seen them react the most has been to credit tightening events. And the most recent example, and everyone should remember this, it was only a little while ago, this was the 2017 Royal Commission, which resulted in a tightening of lending by APRA. And we saw the Sydney property market actually retract in price by an average around 16%, and that was just in 12 months. As always, though, this contraction of price was pretty short-lived, and the data from as recently as March 2020 showed that the Sydney property market was less than 3% off returning to its 2017 peak. And you can see that there in that chart where APRA started clamping down on tightening in the top left-hand corner, that yellow circle. We had that decline, and then around December 2018, we started seeing the market pump up again, and it pumped really, really hard during 2019. Now, we're not worried about credit tightening, okay? There's currently an unprecedented amount of liquidity being injected across the globe at levels that far surpass the post-GFC measures. And we believe that this crisis will be short-lived, and we will bounce back faster than we did during the GFC. By mid-2021, most countries are going to return to free movement of people, and we do believe that's going to be post-vaccine. We are going to get infrastructure delivery that's going to be fast-tracked. Jobs are going to rebound across all sectors, and the virus is no longer going to really be a threat. All right, we will see positive improvements in asset values, so stocks, but definitely none more than those underpinned by land. So if I sound confident, it's because I am. All right. This has been the case for every crisis and cycle that has existed prior to this one over hundreds of years, and we expect that this current crisis is laying the foundation for an even stronger real estate cycle from mid-2021 to 2024. And that should be the second upswing that we see in this particular cycle that we're in. If you don't know much about property cycles, we've got a great video on it on YouTube. Go on there, Providence Property Group, check it out.